Hey, good morning and welcome to this presentation. We are delighted to have so many participants joining us today on this rainy morning. And it's great to know that there are so many educators at the University of South Carolina who care about projecting caring into the online environment. But first, I would like to introduce the entire team. Kate Jones still is our leader. She is a faculty member at the College of Nursing. She also directs the Nursing Administration Program and Nurse Executive Program in the DNP. Kate has a lifelong interest in caring, and particularly caring as a leadership quality. Phyllis Rayner is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, also a faculty member at the College of Nursing, and I am an instructional designer. So as you can see, we are an interdisciplinary team, and as we were working together exploring student perceptions of faculty caring in the online learning environment, we aimed to mesh nursing and distance education perspectives. But we will tell you that part of the story a little bit later. So Kate, why won't you tell us now a little bit about the context?
Sure. So thank you, Vera, and good morning, everybody. So here at the College of Nursing, we're very proud of our online graduate programs. And as you can see, we're displaying our U.S. News and World Report ranking among the best online programs for graduate nursing this year. We offer multiple master's level and Doctor of Nursing practice specialties. They're listed there. I won't read them to you. They are didactic content is presented entirely online, and clinical experiences are either in the clinical setting or in our simulation lab. Let me tell you a little bit about our students. So as I mentioned, they're enrolled in online programs, and they have varying levels of comfort and experience with online learning. Some nurses who return to graduate school do so pretty soon after they become registered nurses, but some wait years and sometimes decades to come back to school. So as you can imagine, they have different work schedules, they work in different specialties, they have varying levels of professional experience, and they have work and family obligations. The other thing to know is that they're geographically dispersed in multiple states. So I've had students in my program, from Pennsylvania to California simultaneously in the same course. Some have limited experience and skills with technology. Others may be proficient with skills in technology. So we have a very diverse group of students in our graduate programs, and our primary goal is success for all of our students in their program, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that we reflect our interest in their success, partly through our caring.
And our graduate program uses the asynchronous online learning model because student schedules vary so much and change so frequently that we cannot find a time slot during the day when everybody can meet together.
So now let's talk a little bit about caring. So for those of us in the nursing profession, we often hear the phrase, caring is the essence of nursing. And we're proud to be in a caring profession, but we don't want others to perceive caring as a soft skill. Nursing certainly has high-tech elements, but those have to be delivered with a caring heart and a caring spirit. There are many nurse scientists who have made it their life's work to study caring. One example is provided here. Gene Watson is a very well-known caring theorist who started the Watson Caring Science Institute. So that website is available for you if you're interested in looking into it. Her work has influenced many others. But although caring is the essence of nursing, I don't believe that nurses own caring. I suspect that most of you who joined us today are not nurses, but something about this topic of caring and online education drew you to this session. So yes, as educators, you own caring too. We're not going to keep it all for ourselves in the College of Nursing. Caring can be measured. In fact, there's a great book of measurement instruments for caring in nursing and the health sciences that provides many validated tools to measure caring. Now, there are some people who believe that caring is simply an innate quality and you either have it or you don't. Well, hopefully we can, through many methods, teach caring as part of the art and science of nursing, of education, of many different professions. As I said, nurses don't own caring. So next, let's think about expressing caring in the educational setting. You'll notice that there is a resource here. You may be familiar with the work of a number of higher education professionals whose work is collated in the website Pedagogies of Care. It's an open resource for student-centered and adaptive strategies. We do recommend it. It's also listed in our resources, and so you might want to take a look there for more follow-up after our session on caring in the teaching environment. Okay, so our team reviewed many definitions of caring before developing this one that's specific to the online environment. So we believe that caring is intentional communication and actions designed to meet students' actual and potential needs for human connection, learning, support, and respect.
Okay, and for those of us who are teaching online, there's a lovely framework that for 20 years has been guiding course development, teaching methodology, and research into online learning. And you probably heard many times about the community of inquiry. The community of inquiry framework was proposed, well, about 20 years ago. And it consists of three intersecting presences: the teaching presence, the social presence, and the cognitive presence. Now, the cognitive presence is the extent to which the members of the learning community think about students and instructors and maybe teaching assistants, members of the learning community, engage in critical thinking and construct their own understanding or meaning. And that is the goal of higher education, critical thinking development. Social presence is the ability of participants to project their personalities online, be perceived as real people by other members of the community, build a sense of community, identify with the community, and communicate with each other in a meaningful manner. And also it is also the feeling of engagement and safety, security, being accepted, and just feeling good in that learning community. And then the teaching presence is the binding element here. As an online instructor, you create your teaching presence as you develop the course, you select the materials, you develop lectures, you create activities, write descriptions and instructions for assignments, you post announcements, you ask questions on discussion boards, you grade and provide feedback. So all of that is the teaching presence. Now the three presences intersect with each other and interact with each other. And sometimes it's really difficult to kind of like pull them apart and say, this is purely social presence and this is purely cognitive presence. Well, for example, when you ask a question, a really difficult question that would that you think would aim the or promote the development of critical thinking. What is that? Is that cognitive presence? Is that teaching presence? Yes, it's both. And also, if you add a little bit of personal information to that, saying, well, I also struggled with that. And this is how I approached it. I remember this was so difficult for me at the beginning of my professional career. And tell them a little anecdote. All of a sudden, it also social presence. So the three presences act together to create a quality educational experience in higher education. And this is, of course, our goal. So this framework assists us in course development, in teaching in online environments, and also in conducting research into online teaching and learning. So we have social presence, teaching presence, cognitive presence. Where's caring? Where does caring come into the framework? How does it play out? Now, we were interested, or we're still interested, in finding out how our students perceive faculty caring in online courses. What faculty behaviors are perceived and interpreted as faculty caring about their students and caring for their students? So to answer this question, we obtained an internal grant from the College of Nursing, a grant from the Helen Gurley Wolford Creativity and Innovation Fund. And we started with the literature review. We reviewed distance education literature and nursing education literature, looking for caring behaviors. And as we were reviewing the literature, we found a really lovely instrument, Student Perceptions of Online Caring Survey, developed by Dr. Kathleen Zitzman. And we then administered that survey to nursing graduate students in a variety of online programs. Then we followed up with focus groups conducted by our colleagues from Arnold School of Public Health. And we asked them to do the focus groups for us so that, you know, we could control our own bias here. And it's just a pure coincidence that the unit at the School of Public Health is called CARE, Core for Applied Research and Evaluation. We were also interested in finding out whether faculty perceptions of caring are different or the same as student perceptions of caring. Because if a faculty member believes that they care about the students and they do certain things when they are teaching a course, do the students perceive that as caring? So our student and faculty perceptions of caring actions are the same. So we administered the same questionnaire, Perceptions of Online Caring, to all the faculty members in the College of Nursing, because all our faculty teach across programs and they teach in the classroom and online. So all of them have online teaching experience. And we will be reporting those results to you a little bit later. Okay, so the whole thing started in April of 2019 with the administering of the Student Perceptions of Online Caring survey to all our graduate nursing students, and our total population was 693 students. 141 of them responded to the survey, which gave us a response rate of about 20%, and 15 students responded to the invitation to participate in focus groups. The focus groups were conducted in June of 2019, and a couple of students were not able to join the group discussions, so our colleagues from the School of Public Health interviewed those students individually. So all 15 students gave us feedback on how they perceive caring from the faculty online. And then in October, we administered the same survey to all College of Nursing faculty. At that time, we had 25 faculty members and 28 of them responded. So the response from the faculty was 37%. And now the results. Okay, so we will start from the number 10 and walk all the way down to number 1. So notice that number 10 on the list is verbalizes enthusiasm for learning. So students really want you to keep things positive, and they want you to project enthusiasm for their learning and for learning in general. And number 9 provides provides supportive or corrective guidance to individual students privately. So nobody wants to be embarrassed in a public setting. So students it should be number 8. Students appreciate when the instructor expresses the belief that students will be successful in the online environment despite difficult life events. And this is particularly important for us right now when we are dealing with the COVID pandemic, and all of a sudden what was so familiar is now done in a very different way. So we still believe that our students will be successful no matter what. So when responding to student work refers to specifics. So when students hear generalized comments like, great work everybody, or that was a very good discussion, that does not necessarily communicate to them that the instructor actually looked at the discussion, or that the instructor read their contributions, and they really appreciate it when you refer to specifics. If everybody did a great job, where is that greatness? What particular details were so good that you think that everybody did a great job? And then, of course, students appreciate it and perceive it as caring for them and about them when the instructor exhibits excellence in creating or presenting online content. So when you work on your online lectures, that is caring for your students' learning experience. It actually projects as you caring for your students.
So this is Kate again. I get to do the top 5. So number 5, provides students with a discussion board dedicated to student questions and concerns only. We're going to talk more in the implementation section how we do each of these things and show you some examples, but students do appreciate a discussion board that they can use simply to ask questions, and we encourage them to answer each other's questions, and then faculty hop in and help answer questions. So that is perceived as caring by students when they have that available to them. Provides clear instructions regarding acceptable length and quality of required online contributions. So of course, in the online setting, we use discussion boards, we use wikis, we do group projects. They want to know, what is it you're looking for from me in these types of assignments or learning activities. Number 3, this is a fun one, responds to posting and emails within 24 to 48 hours. Even within our own team, we have some back and forth discussion about what exactly this means. I'm going to just keep you guessing for a little bit longer because we will talk about that in more detail as we talk about implementing these behaviors. Number 2, provides a detailed class calendar with all due dates. So for each of our courses, we do an abbreviated course schedule that has a calendar with all due dates, and then posts clear instructions regarding schedules and due dates. So you'll notice that this one is a little bit different than number 2. Students consider clear instructions evidence of caring. They don't want to guess at what we want or when we want it. And you know, amazingly, that was the number 1 response in our student survey. So we also conducted focus groups. We wanted to gather additional information. And there you go, thank you. So these comments helped expand our understanding of what students were looking for in terms of caring behaviors. So instructors who make themselves available, provide encouragement and support, some of the things that you already mentioned as you were entering your comments, assuring students that they can be successful, even if they're struggling with major life events, recognizing that life happens and adjusting deadlines. So there's of course some discussion about this in terms of what's fair about a deadline being extended. Is it extended for everyone? But as we talked about earlier, you have to know your student population. Some of our students are working 12-hour shifts, some are working Monday through Friday, some are working night shift. Things happen in their nursing roles and in their professional life that do require us to have empathy, caring, and concern, and perhaps make appropriate adjustments. Just picking up the phone and calling, and if we're concerned about a student, instead of relying on email, talking to them. And then instructors being available for real-time meetings through Zoom or in person. Obviously now in person means socially distanced with mask wearing, so there's a lot of Zoom going on, but availability is perceived as caring.
Okay, the focus groups also clarified what it is that's perceived as non-caring. When students feel that the instructor does not care about them at all. Have you heard those instances when students ask the same question about this assignment or where to find it and how to submit it and how many words? And so you may be a little bit tired of that, and then you say, it's in the syllabus. Or find it on YouTube. And so when they hear that it's in the syllabus or go find it somewhere else in the course or on YouTube, this comes across as the instructor not caring for students, not caring to provide an answer when it's needed. Telling students that, well, this is not the program for you when they are struggling with an assignment or when they are struggling through a particular class. And scheduling tests and having major assignments due on religious holidays is also an oversight which comes across as not caring. And yes, we are struggling with this a little bit in the College of Nursing as our program is becoming more and more diverse, and as we accept students from more and more states dealing with different cultures. So we acknowledge that, and we know that this is where we need to be more accommodating. Okay, and now the comparison between the student perception of caring and the faculty perception of caring. Phyllis, would you help us here?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to say hi, everybody. And as a psychiatric nurse practitioner, so being a clinician coming and trying to translate caring from the clinical environment to the academic environment was somewhat challenging for me, especially in the online environment, because as specializing in psychiatry, a lot of our caring is communicated face to face through verbal as well as nonverbal communication. And I have to say that I love seeing all the feedback on how you prioritize caring. Some said, if I'm really responsive to email, that's an indication that's really important. So we're going to spend some time comparing faculty responses and how faculty prioritize those caring behaviors and which ones were more important as compared to our students' responses and which ones they deem to be really critical in communicating caring behaviors. So as you see on the first slide, we want you to pay attention to the top 3 caring behaviors. They're perceived exactly the same in priority from the student perspective and the faculty perspective. So you see here the posting of clear instructions regarding schedules and due dates, providing a detailed class calendar with all due dates, and responding to postings and emails within 24 to 48 hours were really key caring behaviors, perceived key caring behaviors by students as well as faculty. And as Kate mentioned, there was some discussion on that last caring behavior. What does that actually mean, that 24 to 48 hour time frame, particularly on the weekend? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next slide, please. So this is where the perspectives begin to vary, the student perspective and then the faculty perspective. So we want you to pay attention here where it's more important for the students to have clear instructions regarding the quality of the coursework than the faculty thought or perceived it was in importance. It's also more important for the student to have a space designated for asking questions and bringing up any concerns. So the faculty didn't think that that was as important, but not as high priority. And then the last one was exhibiting excellence in creating and presenting online content. We thought that that was more important, but that's probably because in our specialties, we just think that that's an area where we're supposed to shine very brightly. So again, there was a little bit of a variance there. Next slide, please. And so in each of these 3 statements, the student's perception was only slightly higher than the faculty perception. So when responding to student work and referring to specifics, expresses the belief that the student will be successful and provide supportive corrective guidance. That was pretty close in priority with students and faculty, just a little bit of a difference there. Next slide. So in this set, there was a more noticeable contrast. Students want quality teaching with clear instructions, but they were less concerned about being reminded that learning is important. And they don't feel that instructions about online social behavior is as important as faculty do. And perhaps that's because they're just sort of looking at their own individual behavior, whereas the faculty, they're looking at the behaviors of the whole classroom, and how that could, that's more meaningful and could be more disruptive of every student is sort of not adhering to that social code. Okay.
But
And
what is really interesting here is that with the top 3 behaviors, we are in perfect alignment with the students. And then we begin to diverge a little bit. And the things that the faculty like to do, which is talk about the content and remind the students how they should be studying. This is more important for the faculty. This is the provider perspective, right?
Well, and I think that those, like you said, the first three are the key,
Yes.
the key faculty caring behaviors, but then the others sort of determine the role. So as a student, we're going to have a different priority than we would as a faculty member. So as faculty, it's very important that that social code perhaps is observed, um, and some of these other things about emphasizing the importance of learning and so forth. So and you could actually see that. It was interesting kind of looking at your examples of caring that you provided, and you could kind of see that some of those things that were related specifically to the faculty role were more important to address. So moving on to the next slide. From our work, what we concluded was that it appears that caring behaviors are those mostly associated with social presence and teaching presence. Cognitive presence behaviors, such as asking challenging questions, would really need to be connected to a social presence behavior to be perceived as caring behaviors. That might include sharing a personal reflection or an anecdote on the topic. We say anecdote, but a lot of times for our students, they need context for the content itself. So they read all of this content, but they don't know how to contextualize it and have it translate to what they actually need to know in practice as a clinician. So providing those anecdotal stories and sharing stories from our own experience as clinicians is actually very helpful for them in understanding how to appropriately apply the content.
Phyllis,
Okay.
or Vera, there's been some good comments and a couple questions about, for example, there was a question about hand-holding. Do you need to hand-hold students? And I love that question because hand-holding and caring are not the same thing. We do expect students to learn. We do have high expectations, but when you recognize that a particular student is needing a lot, they're asking questions every week, they're asking the same questions, they never seem to be quite caught up with everyone else. That's when an outreach to that one student, you know, you saw the quote from the focus group that said, pick up the phone and call. Sometimes an outreach to that one student and bringing their behaviors to their attention and talking about how to be successful in the class, that is, A, it's perceived as caring, and B, it may help advance their online learning behavior.
And I'll say this, it's actually quite interesting. The more you can communicate that you care and how available you are upfront, it actually causes less anxiety and facilitate less questions, because the idea is once the social presence is established, they already know that they can reach out to you. A lot of the angst is the wondering and the uncertainty about will they answer my call when I'm available. So there's really not a lot of hand holding. It's actually less of that when you can establish that social and teaching presence with your students. That's what I found.
So Vera, do you want to move on and help people understand how we implement these behaviors in the College of Nursing?
There was a particular question in the discussion board that, so when you're talking about the application, one said, I'm struggling to understand what it means to post clear instructions regarding accepting social online behavior. So you'll have an example of that. So I just wanted to highlight that question.
Yep.
And I also saying that question was answered in the chat. The chat now assumed a life of its own. There are good discussions there, good conversations. Yes, it's netiquette, and you just ask the students to be respectful of each other and read your contributions prior to posting to make sure you are not communicating anger or any negative emotions. It's that sort of stuff. We also want to discourage students from posting very long messages because, you know, we are all really challenged when it comes to time and reading online communications. So we want to keep them within specific parameters, and open your message with a greeting and conclude with a nice sign off. So we want to do that in the course too. And now we are at that point in our presentation when we will discuss implementing the top 10 caring behaviors. So our students told us what they are. So how do we implement them in the course? And anybody who has already worked with an instructional designer at the Center for Teaching Excellence, you are on the right track. You know that at the university we are trying to implement the quality standards from the higher education, from the Quality Matters higher education rubric. And yes, all of those standards help us express caring. At the top of the student list was provide a detailed class calendar with all due dates, please. And it really works in our advantage when we are consistent with the due dates. When we design online courses at the College of Nursing, I always ask the faculty to decide when they want all the assignments to be due. Let's set up one day of the week, one time, and then make everything due then. Because our students are working adults, we tend to put all our assignments due at the end of the week, just because it's easy to remember. Your week concludes on the weekend, Sunday, so just have everything submitted by the end of the week. And then, you know, the faculty member can decide, I don't want it to be on Sunday, it has to be in by Friday. Now we have to discuss Friday a little bit. Is it a good assignment submission day? We know that many of our students are weekend warriors, so Friday is going to be a little bit problematic. And maybe at the beginning of the next week. So it also depends upon when you will be available for grading, because we don't want to face a situation when the student submits everything, when students submit their work on a certain day of the week, but then the faculty cannot get to those assignments for several days. So
Vera, I'll just add just a note here. So our students in our graduate programs, because we are consistent across courses in doing this particular behavior, I almost always use midnight on Sundays as a due date, but I have an accelerated program. My nursing administration master's program moves quickly in 7-week courses. And so sometimes it's essential that I have a midweek assignment due date. When I do, because our students are used to this, you know, often typically Sunday night, midnight due date, I'll put it in red on this abbreviated calendar, or I'll put please note this assignment is due on Thursday night in week 2. And I'll often, and we'll talk about doing weekly videos soon, I will often explain the rationale for that difference so that students understand why. Thanks, Vera. I just wanted to throw that in.
Okay, thank you. This is actually very easy to implement this particular behavior. We came up with the abbreviated course schedule format, which actually was given to us by our students years ago. And the students said, we don't want to see that course schedule that stretches over 5 pages. That's a little too intimidating. Give us everything on 1 page. Only dates when assignments are due. And so we came up with an abbreviated course calendar, abbreviated course schedule that only lists weeks, dates for the weeks, topics, and then student deliverables. Provide detailed descriptions of assignments and clear instructions for completion. Well, if you imagine yourself as a student and you have to create an assignment, then you probably want as much detail as possible so that you can do all of the work yourself without bothering your instructor. Because students don't really want to ask all these questions. It is a barrier, it's a hurdle. So up front, I ask the faculty members to describe in every detail what they expect from the students, how much and of what. And we post all of that in one folder. So at the beginning of the course, a student can see exactly how their learning will be assessed, what it is that they have to do. And it helps the instructor tremendously during the course, and it helps the student. This helps us minimize that student-instructor communication about when things are due, what is the format, how many words, APA format or no APA format, etc., etc. A forum dedicated to student questions and concerns. So on the class discussion board, we create a forum and call it questions about the course. And we tell them that if you have a question or you have a concern and it's not something personal, then please post them there. And in large courses, you know, if you have a class of, say, 100 students or more, and they can generate a lot of questions in a large course. So it might be advantageous to set up forums per week. Week 1 questions, week 2 questions, week 3 questions, and that kind of minimizes the number of questions and concerns that the instructor has to look at per week. So that kind of helps you move a little faster in a large course. But then remember how important it is for students to have their questions answered. Please answer those questions patiently. Don't say that it's in the syllabus. You can answer the question again for, you know, the 25th time briefly, and then say, please see the syllabus for more information. Again, if you are seeing lots and lots of logistical questions, then maybe it is the time to revisit the description of the assignment and add a bit more detail or clarify it so that you are not getting as many logistical questions. You definitely want to encourage content-related questions, but logistical questions can be contained by providing more details in assignment descriptions. Now, when creating your lectures, our students told us that they do not like online lectures that sound like the instructor is reading the PowerPoint slides. They want the instructor to speak as if he or she is in the classroom talking to a live audience. Students really appreciate when online lectures, and I'm talking about pre-recorded online lectures, when online lectures contain examples from the instructor's own professional experience and also instructor's thoughts on the content. How do you interpret it? What does it mean to you? So all of this helps contextualize knowledge. And then when students see a lot of typos and errors on PowerPoint slides, that turns them off. So this was a big, those focus groups were a big help for us because they clarified students' expectations for online lectures, and now this information is part of professional development at the College of Nursing.
So all of the things that Vera just talked about were things that are done and created and worked on before the course even starts. So now let's talk about how we demonstrate faculty caring behaviors during the course itself. Thank you. Okay, so responding to students, emails, phone calls, discussion board postings within 24 to 48 hours. So prompt response is perceived by students as a caring behavior. 24 to 48 hours, we learned, is acceptable to students, although quicker responses are noticed and appreciated. We also, within our team, had significant discussion about whether this 24 to 48 hour window includes weekends. As we mentioned, many of our students are, working full-time, have varying schedules, and may be dedicating the weekends to their coursework. So some view that there is a view that means faculty should also be dedicating course time on the weekend to be sure that if students have questions that come up on the weekend, they're getting answered quickly. The other view, however, is that faculty also need downtime, and they need to be able to step away from their courses sometimes. So this was addressed in the focus groups. Several students mentioned being pleasantly surprised by prompt faculty feedback on the weekends, but they also thought it was reasonable to expect that instructors would have days that they're not online at all. So they said maybe it makes sense to check for faculty to check once over a weekend. The overall sentiment was that students appreciate knowing if there's going to be a dim response or a delay in grading assignments, and they're really pretty understanding if the student tells them ahead of time. We also thought about this in terms of modeling professional behaviors. So as nurses, we need to model self-care as a professional behavior that's really essential in nursing, and I assume in other professions as well. So if we say, I will check emails on Saturdays, but I set Sundays aside and put that right up front in terms of, instructions for the student on how to get a hold of us, students are really understanding about that. I saw earlier in the chat something about not wanting to provide personal cell phones. I do, and many of us do, provide our cell phone numbers, and students are very respectful of that, because the instruction that we give is if there's a personal urgent matter, you can text me and I will respond as soon as I can. But they know that that is reserved for urgent personal issues that are not related to how do I do this assignment. Okay, next slide. So this is about providing timely, meaningful, and respectful feedback. So when we respond to student work, we should be referring to specifics. We also encourage considering providing audio or video feedback, including exemplars of good answers and our reasoning. So this is an example of, I think it was the pharmacology course, and a question that was posed was, what medication would you recommend? And the feedback shows that there were multiple answers to this question. So the way that the faculty was able to give feedback to students who gave both the right answer and the wrong answer was to show that there were a lot of answers to this question, but that there was one that was the most common answer, and then go on to describe why that one's the correct answer and why the others might not be as common. That was for nurse practitioner students. One method that students do really appreciate is the video feedback. So as an example, when a group submits a finished product, the faculty member can provide recorded video feedback pointing directly to their work product and comment on specifics. And then that can be shared with the group members for asynchronous viewing. So I'll say they submitted a presentation and it's in PowerPoint. I'll go through it. I'll have their PowerPoint on the screen. I'll video my feedback. I'll save that and I'll post it to the group, and then they can see the feedback whenever. And then to expand on this slide, we want to provide praise and encouragement and enthusiasm for learning. So another method that we use is recording a short video that's posted each Monday morning. And in it, we review the previous week and we provide aggregated feedback of key points. And then we address what the students will be working on in the week ahead. This is an opportunity for us to connect, to be positive and encouraging. So, you know, it's only about 5 to 7 minutes long. It's welcome to week 5. It's let me just briefly talk about what we covered last week and, you know, your assignments and what I saw. Of course, always pointing out aggregate information, not student-specific information, and then planning for the week ahead. And sometimes if there's a big assignment coming up in a couple of weeks, saying, oh, and don't forget, thinking ahead, you've got whatever it is due in 2 weeks.
And this behavior seems to respond to the need for personal connection to a human being among online students. This is so easy to do. And the payoff is tremendous. All of a sudden, students feel that the instructor is cared enough about us to record a video. You can create a beautiful announcement and spend a whole hour handcrafting that, but a video speaks so much more to the students that it's like pure magic.
And let me just say, there are people who are reluctant to show their face on camera. Well, I think during COVID, most of us have gotten over this. We are on camera a lot now. Students need to see you. If you are doing asynchronous online learning, this is their opportunity to see you as a person. And so I strongly encourage, if you're camera shy, you know, practice getting over your camera shyness, because it's your connection in this type of learning environment.
So at this point, we would like for you to think about what caring behaviors you can add to your online teaching toolkit. What caring behaviors that we talked about that our students reported as so important, you can add now to your online teaching toolkit.
And can I just say this too? I'll say on the clinical side, with what we're dealing with COVID, these little gestures and what you're thinking about in terms of adding caring behaviors in your class is so meaningful now, because students who I see in the clinical setting, they need all of these little touches and personal expressions of caring from their faculty mean the world to them right now, because they feel so isolated and because they can't connect in ways that they're used to. So especially now during COVID, these things that you're kind of thinking about incorporating will matter so much.
On midterm evaluations of our online courses, we keep hearing from students about how important these things are. These weekly videos do not introduce any new content. They are simply to give feedback to the group on completed assignments, and also highlight what's coming up and project enthusiasm. But students tell us that they really rely on them because they are so important. And half of it is motivation. Half of it is just keeping up with the course. So it is very encouraging to see several comments in the chat now about our participants thinking of adding these videos to their online courses. And you will be amazed at how enthusiastically your students will respond to these.
Yeah, this is evidence of your social presence. So they will get to know you through your videos. Everybody's style is a little bit different, and so let's see. Like the weekly idea, is there a way to do feedback videos in large courses? I teach an online course with over 300 students, then recorded a video. Yeah, so I'm going to see if Phyllis or Vera, I haven't had a class with that many students. Mine are all in the MSN and DNP programs. Our undergrad courses might be that large. So Vera, since you work with that faculty also, do you want to answer that one?
I can provide an example of doing a video feedback in a course that has 150 students. In this particular course, students complete weekly activities, and the instructor provides feedback to the entire class in a weekly video. She always tries to do that on Monday. In the video, she gives generalized feedback to the class and inserts exemplars of the best answers or of the best solutions. And students actually get so excited when they recognize the answers that they submitted. They kind of get, oh, it's just, you're reading my answer. You read my answer a second time this semester. So that is really motivating for them, and it just creates an atmosphere of very intimate conversation between the instructor and the student. The student gives input through the assignment, and then the instructor responds to the class, but also provides examples of the best answers. So everybody feels like, oh my God, this instructor knows all of us. And it's 150.
We did have a course size that was almost 200, and so the weekly, I didn't necessarily do the weekly videos to provide that social presence, but for a lot of the assignments, they were set up in groups, and so for the groups that we saw that were struggling, I offered to set up a Zoom meeting, a question and answer, and so I'm thinking perhaps if there's a cohort in this 300 person class, and you're noticing that there's a cohort that's just really not getting it, or they're really challenged with the content, doing that question and answer session was really great. And we offered them several times during the semester. They didn't have to show up every time. It wasn't mandatory, but it added that, again, I'm here. You know, some of you are getting it, some of you are not. And so this is me adding that little bit extra to give you the opportunity to have your questions and concerns and determine where that, where that gap in knowledge or where you're struggling to connect the dots.
And it's all about perception. You don't have to be very close to each of those 300 students, but you can project caring in a video. And then by inserting an example here and an example there, all of a sudden it's like, oh yes, that instructor is looking at my work.
I think that's so key, Chase, because a lot of times I know before I was thinking, I'm really translating this. This is what I feel. This is my intent to translate, Carrie. But somehow it's not getting, it's that intention is not being translated appropriately. So it's interesting to actually step back and see, now this is what I'm doing. Is it actually translating as I intended to? So I think that that's great that you're considering how you're doing that and if your intent is actually being received the way you'd like it to be.
And hopefully some of the resources will provide our reference list and the Pedagogies of Care website. Some of the resources might help you as you're thinking about that a little bit more, Chase. So with all this information that we had, we of course needed to share it with our colleagues here at the College of Nursing and disseminate some of this information. So we did a few things. We presented a webinar to the College of Nursing faculty. We invited Dr. Kathy Sitzman, who we had mentioned earlier. The survey tool that we used was her survey tool. And she's co-author of a book with Jean Watson, who I also mentioned earlier, Watson's Caring in the Digital World. So that book's a great book, and then the webinar that was presented to the College of Nursing faculty with Kathy Sitzman was one of our actions. We also developed a toolkit of online caring behaviors for nursing faculty, and we presented that to all of our current faculty back in the fall. And we now include it in new faculty orientation starting this summer. It has links and it has pretty much all the things we talked about and how to make them happen. We also submitted a manuscript, a lit review for publication. That is about to be in the fourth quarter issue, I believe, of Distance Teaching and Learning. No, of Distance Education is that journal. Distance Teaching and Learning was the conference. We talk about this with colleagues at local, obviously sharing it with you all today. National and international conferences. We did participate in the Distance Teaching and Learning Conference, which was virtual this year. So that was interesting. And then we're working on a couple of more manuscripts, a research report about our study itself, and then a factor analysis of the tool. And Alex, yes, we are willing to share the toolkit. I think the best way probably for us to do that is to share it with the CTE staff, and they can maybe distribute it to everyone who was here today. We, of course, want to thank Kathy Sitzman for permission to use her questionnaire and for presenting the workshop. Our colleagues at CARE at the Arnold School for the focus group and the report. Dr. Abbas Tavakoli, who's a statistician here at the College of Nursing, who helped us with our statistics work. And, of course, the College of Nursing Helen Gurley Worldford Fund for funding our small project. And here are the references that we have referred to throughout the presentation, and we very much hope that you enjoyed this presentation. We enjoyed it. We enjoyed seeing so much participation in the chat, and we hope that this is helpful to you. If you want to get in touch with any one of us about this work or you have any questions, please feel free to do so. Here's our contact information.